Hello everyone, welcome to the Money Club series. I am your host, Zah and I'm joined by the top G of accountants, Sam Eljaban. How are you?
Very well, thank you, Zah. How are you?
I'm very hungry.
Oh, me too. I'm actually very, very thirsty.
Yeah.
My mouth's so dry right
So for our listeners, it's the holy month of Ramadan and we're halfway through and we thought, you know what? Fuck it, let's do a podcast and make it even harder for ourselves.
Let's test ourselves with no energy, see how entertaining we can be.
Look, I actually feel all right. I feel it's the water that gets me.
Yeah. And I think now talking for a long time at one time, it's going to test us, so we'll see how we go.
We'll see how we go. We'll start fading away after the half an hour mark.
We'll have no saliva, we'll be finished, mate, finished.
Well, welcome back. So what are we going to talk about today, Sam?
Today, we're going to talk about this concept we keep hearing about everywhere online, social media. It's become a bit of like a catch call or something, a hashtag sort of thing. The Matrix. So we're not talking about the movie, although...
I don't even remember the movie, to be honest with you.
I remember it was mad, but I never really understood it.
Yeah. So I remember watching it going, what the fuck is this all about? But now, with this whole Andrew Tate thing and all of that sort of thing, it sort of makes sense, right? What it actually is. So we actually decided to do this podcast early last week when Andrew Tate was in jail, and we were talking about, maybe we should get on and start talking about how good he is, right? And shows our support because I watched someone, I think it was one of his friends, do a podcast and say, we all need to get on, anyone with influence needs to get online and start talking good things about this guy because he's been wrongfully arrested and we need to show the world that he's actually, trying to do good. He's very controversial. A lot of people don't like him. We support him. There's a lot of things that I sort of look up to in terms of, and I agree with, and I think he's doing a really, really good job with, influencing young men to basically work hard and to self-improve and all of those sort of things. There are a few things that I don't agree on, we're not always going to see eye to eye, but the majority of stuff that he talks about is actually really good content.
100%.
And we thought, you know what, let's do this podcast to show our support for the Tates, right? And then he got released.
Exactly.
Just
the other day.
But anyway, we will still talk about it because we've come up with 10 points, which is about escaping this matrix, right? And a lot of the stuff that Andrew Tate talks about is what we've actually talked about in the podcast earlier.
Yeah. Well, what we've been telling people really, and I'd say the understanding of money and investing, all that kind of stuff, it ties into the matrix. Because really what Tate was saying when he's educating us about what he knows and trying to help us empower ourselves and do better, he's trying to get you out of this sort of, it's, what the matrix is sort of like the rat race. Another way of saying it.
It's exactly the same thing, isn't it?
It's the same thing. It's just, I guess, the more modern term for what the rat race is and what that is. It's the system you're born into, which is like the Matrix movie. You're plugged into this sort of themed system. And
right? Sydney, like most of our listeners are from Sydney, right? Because we're based in Sydney, is probably the biggest rat race in the country.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
100%.
So this particular podcast is very relevant to pretty much 99% of our listeners because we are more and more getting stuck in this rat race / matrix. Where cost of living pressures are really taking its toll on households. Interest rates are through the roof, so repayments are so high. There's not as much money in the economy as there used to be. So and prices of items like property and anything is so high still. So the cost of living, it's really taking its toll on this Sydney population, and it's enslaving us to do more work. It's enslaving us to pay more tax, and at the end of the day, who's losing? We are.
Us.
Yeah.
You end up becoming a cog in a big machine, and if you can't somehow get out of that machine, you're stuck forever. And you're sort of programmed from a young age, hence the matrix being plugged in, to do these certain things which we've talked about before. Buy the home, do the family thing, all this kind of stuff in a certain manner, in a certain order, which will set you up to be stuck. in this matrix and be a good consumer, be a good taxpayer, and just do what you're told, really. It's doing what you're told and doing what the system was created to do and keep you in your place and be a cog in the big machine.
And that's what it's designed to do. So Andrew Tate famously says, don't buy the home. It's the fucking stupidest thing you can do. And we drill that into our clients and into our listeners. We can't explain to you anymore how much that has been, sort of old school method has been created to enslave you for 30 years, to keep you paying tax, to keep the corporations going, right? They don't want you to prosper. And this is probably the reason why Andrew Tate got cancelled off all social media platforms, because there was actually no reason why he got cancelled. It's because he's exposing the truth. And I think the reason why a lot of people don't like him is because he's actually exposing the truth. And it hurts big corporations, it hurts governments, and he's ruffled too many feathers, right? And, I really support him in terms of getting that message out there, because even I think to myself, sometimes my message isn't really going to be really well received by a lot of the bigger players. And it's not, like that. And this is the reason why financial education is not taught in school. Being an entrepreneur is not taught in school, because you're really trained to be that cog in the wheel.
They don't want, they want to preserve the people at the top. There's not much room at the top, and they want to continue their dominance. That's what I see.
And the reality is the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. And if we sit back and just whinge and whine about it, it's only going to get worse, right? Like, it's going to happen anyway. It's like saying, one day I'm going to be 50, I don't want to turn 50 years old. It's going to happen anyway,
exactly.
Right? So do your best to get to that age and be really fulfilled with your life, right? And it's the same with this. It's like the rich are going to get richer, the poor are going to get poorer. Which side are you going to be on, right? Mindset-wise, right? Let's dive in. So number one, so we've got 10 points here to escape the matrix, and we're relating it back to basically what Andrew Tate talks about. Discipline and hard work. He's big on discipline and hard work.
That's a number one. And that really comes down to understanding what you want, trying to envision that. So it's a lot of mentality stuff. And discipline, hard work, sort of, to me, is a sacrifice. So if you could look at that as a sacrifice, if you don't do the hard work or be disciplined, you're not going to get anywhere. So you have to sacrifice going out, having fun, all this kind of stuff, to spend time doing disciplined things, working on yourself in whatever form you need to. Could be financially, physically, intellectually, whatever you're lacking. Spend time, do the hard work, level yourself up to get to the point where you're able to do these things and achieve greater things and slowly get out of that matrix.
So I think discipline starts with probably the simplest things, and then what happens is you'll have a domino effect. And a good example of that is, like, currently we're in the holy month of Ramadan, right? And I didn't really I fasted when I was a kid, when I was at home, but my whole 20s I didn't do it. I was just, just didn't even cross my mind to do it. But then when I hit 30 years old, I was like, you know what, I'm going to start doing it, right? And I did it. My wife did it with me as well. And obviously Ramadan, you're depriving yourself from food, you're depriving yourself from water, the pleasures, all the other pleasures in life, until the sun goes down. You do that for 30 days, right? At the end of that 30 days, when I turned 30 and did it, it changed my life because it allowed me to apply that same discipline to so many other areas of my life, towards my physical training, my spirituality, my financial acumen. Like, I started reading more. Like, I was so disciplined in every aspect of my life, starting from something so simple, and that's restricting food for 30 days. Like, it doesn't sound like that will take effect on all of those other bigger things in life. But if you start disciplining yourself with the most simplest things, you never know where that will lead you.
100%. So I agree 100% there. Another thing I wanted to touch on just briefly is not just discipline and hard work, it's also knowledge. So the discipline and hard work can get you so far, but I think focusing some of that discipline and hard work in a knowledge aspect because sort of what you're saying, building up the habits over time snowballs. If you can then add knowledge into it as well, which is what you've done in other areas after Ramadan, it allows you to get better clarity and make better choices, which will dictate where you end up. So along with hard work, physical hard work and all that kind of stuff and discipline, apply that to your brain, I think, a lot, if you can, and build up that intellectual, capability, because it's your decisions based on your knowledge is going to dictate where you're going to end up. So I think, don't just think it's about, for people listening, it's about, say, physical things or something like that. I don't know if I'm making sense, but...
No, you are. So for example, like, discipline can be applied to learning a new skill, right? And really sort of keeping at it.
Yeah,
so for example, it takes discipline to even do a podcast, right? Like, not a lot of people want to do a podcast. I hear a lot of people saying, oh, thinking about doing a podcast, but you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if it's going to work. Man, we had a Facebook memory come up the other day of when we did these podcasts on an iPhone about 6 years ago. You know what I mean? And it was shit. I look back on that and go, and I hope in another 6 years, I'll look back on this podcast, this Escape the Matrix podcast, and go, that was shit, right? Because you want to continue that discipline of just doing it over and over and over again. And I think, you've got to do it when you don't even feel like doing it. And that was, I used to do a lot of reading. I don't read as much as I used to because I'm so busy now with work. But, man, I was reading a book a week for years. And I made that like a goal every year. It's 52 books. And that's hard to do. You know what I mean? Like, you've got to literally read an hour and a half a day. So, but, the habit is formed and the knowledge is gained, right?
Is gained. It's touching on like opportunity costs. So if you don't do it, you're going to be far behind if you don't do it. So you might as well do it. Do whatever you need to do to level up so you can get ahead.
The time's going to pass anyway.
That's, another good point.
Number 2.
The only way to live how you want is to earn money without trading your time. So we've talked about this. Really, if you're in a job, there's certain ways to earn income. We'll say Kiyosaki, the OG in financial education to the masses, talked about those quadrants, cash flow quadrants, where your income comes from. Most people have probably heard about it, but just quickly, you got the employee, self-employed, the investor, and the business owner. We don't tend to agree you have to follow that path and go to a complete investor. We think you can invest throughout your whole journey and not even get to business owner or investor completely. So employee can invest, you can get ahead that way. So I guess what Tate's saying, and he shows through his life, he was into business. He realized that he's got a lot of actual good stories online where he was a boxer earlier.
He was a world champion kickboxer.
World champion kickboxer. But before that, they were quite poor. They didn't have much income. Through boxing, he realized he could make some money, but again, that's sort of an earned income. It's restricted to his time and where he can be at a certain place, unless you get to Floyd Mayweather type levels and all that kind of stuff.
Well, he didn't make that much money from fighting, right?
Yeah.
And it was just something to make ends meet.
Yes.
And he quickly realized that the fighting industry doesn't really pay that well unless you are in the top 0.1%. And then he realized that business was his way out. And this is where he started creating assets like businesses, and I think he bought property and all of that sort of thing as well, and got into crypto and all of that stuff. But what he's trying to, I guess, drum into people's heads is, hey, work towards not trading your time for money and having your money work for you.
Yeah. And that's a fundamental. We talk about it all the time. The only way you're able to really expand yourself, expand your wealth, is if you deleverage from working and time-based work. So if you're able, the only ways to do that are to go into business and invest really. Self-employed, you're still restricted. You can have a business that's tied to you. You're still limited by the amount of time you have. So really, that piece of gold he's showing there is you have to invest, whether that's into business or into property, other assets. That's the only way you're going to escape. Otherwise, you're tied to working for someone or for yourself for money.
Well, you're under the gun. You're under the gun, right? Yeah. And Andrew Tate can go to work because he loves hard work, just like us, because he loves it, right? I've got a friend, he's got a property portfolio worth 65 million. And he said to me one day, he goes, if the market moves by 10%, I've made $6 million. You know what I mean? From doing nothing.
Massive. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So money doesn't really, it's not about money for him anymore. It's really about choosing the things that he wants to do. Like he travels for 6 months of the year, right? He runs his business because he's actually quite passionate about it. He loves building the brand, right? And he's doing it more from a philanthropic perspective rather than trying to survive, right? And once you get past that trading time for money, just trying to survive to pay the bills, you know, life becomes beautiful because you've got choices, right? You can give back to your family, you can give back to charity, you can do so many things with your time rather than, like I said, being under the gun. You don't want to be under the gun forever.
That's survival mode, like paying the bills, and it's not a fun life. Everyone started there, most people. Unless
we all start there.
We all start there,
but you've got to work on getting out of it. And I see a lot of people who are, you know, well into their 40s where they have to go to work to pay their mortgage. They have to go to work to, you know, feed their kids. And the majority of the population are in that, you know, are in that boat because they haven't built up systems and a plan on how to get out of it.
And it's not a fun life. You see a lot of these people, they might go to work, all that kind of thing, but there's a lot of pressure.
Not forever.
No,
forever.
No. You can crack. It'll crack you.
Number three.
Very good point. So don't listen to the advice of people who are living lives you don't want to live. So it's very simple. If someone's not an investor and they're talking to you about investing, don't listen to them because they don't have any idea. If they're not running a business, they want to give you business advice.
We got this fictional character in this podcast, the spastic uncle at the barbecue.
Oh yeah,
right. And everybody knows this uncle at the barbecue who gives you this advice on whether it's business, property investing, or anything. And the bloke's unsuccessful. He hasn't. I'm not saying he hasn't done anything, but he hasn't done anything that you aspire to do, right? And they're giving you all of this advice, and that's the wrong person to take advice from. Like, if you're trying to build a big property portfolio, come take advice from someone like me, right? If you're trying to be a gun accountant, take advice from someone like you, right? If you're trying to lose weight and get in shape, take advice from the personal trainer at the gym who has the best physique. It's you wouldn't go to the fat personal trainer to try and lose weight. It doesn't make sense, right? Forget about his advice. Imagine a fat personal trainer giving you advice on how to lose weight through diet and nutrition and training.
The proof's not in the pudding.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You might know it, and there's nothing against fat people, right? But like, you're trying to give advice on something that you don't practice yourself.
Exactly. I think a good thing nowadays, that spastic uncle, he used to be very, let's say, influential because that's the only person you were exposed to.
As a kid.
Yeah. Right, and if you continue and you don't expand that network of people that you can turn to for advice, whether they're professionals, you know, or even just people online, a lot of people online that you can listen to, you're really gonna, you know, suffer.
Well, we see it with clients. They come in here, try and get advice from me
all the time,
right? And then they go, I'm gonna go and talk to my uncle because he's bought one property before. He actually has an investment property, so I'm gonna go and ask him and see what he thinks. 99% of the time they go and ask them, they say, don't listen to Zah, he doesn't know what he's talking about, right? And fair enough, they don't know who I am. There's no relationship there. But like, you've gone and asked someone who has no portfolio or proper experience in this strategy that we're trying to promote. So you're going to be stuck. It's not going to work for you, right? And this is where I think people really need to understand is if they want something, they have to go to someone who's achieved it. You have to. Like, I'm involved in so many different areas of my business. I don't go to my commercial property guy if I want development advice. Right? Like, I go to my development guy who's been successful at that for development advice. But I won't go to that guy for commercial. You know, and it works in every other different industry as well.
The importance here is really you have to expand your network. I think that's the take-home message is don't listen to the spastic uncle. Grow out of that very narrow childhood influential space you have, and start talking to other people that have done what you want to do, or even just people in spaces that are knowledgeable.
Exactly. Like we're not saying that we fucking know everything.
No.
Do you know what I mean? We don't.
Things.
We know
That's
certain
it.
things. We've got our areas. We've got our niches, right?
Yeah.
Like if you come to ask me about crypto, I know fuck all about it, right? But I've got a crypto guy that I go to who's made millions in it. So I ask him. You know, I'll go to him. I go, when's Bitcoin going to take off? Do you know what I mean? When should I get in? You know, like he knows. I'm not going to my uncle who's bought 0.5 of a Bitcoin back in 2008. Do you know what I mean? Like you got to go to the experts.
It's simple.
Let's move on. Number 4.
Number 4, with bravery comes risk. There's no happiness in cowardice. I guess this is a bit of an emotional one. It is true.
Yeah, don't be a bitch.
Don't be a bitch. So it's a mindset one. Mandela, the famous man that helped fight apartheid in South Africa, he said, courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. So to be courageous, you have to take a risk. You have to, encounter something that would create fear in you and overcome it. And what that does, it actually makes you stronger, because you actually fought something and overcame it. If you didn't, you'd be not as built up.
You need to embrace it. And we're seeing it a lot at the moment because interest rates are high, people don't want to move, people are contracting, they don't want to, they just don't want to spend their money, right? But in actual fact, now's the time to take those educated risks because prices are sort of at an all-time low. To other people, it's at an all-time high. But I see it as an all-time low because once interest rates come down, prices are going to go through the roof again, right? So we're trying to acquire as many sites as we can. We're buying as much as we can to the point where we've got no more money in the bank, right? And that's a risk. Like, and you got to roll the dice. You got to figure. You got to take a punt, right? And obviously, you need to educate yourself as much as possible. Surround yourself with experts. But if you don't risk anything, you won't get any reward, right? So what Andrew Tate's trying to say is, take the risk, even if you're going to lose. Like we've said it again before, time and time again on this podcast. Like my dad used to say to me, if you're going to get into a street fight, make sure you're prepared to die, right? Because then you're going all in, right? Yeah, it's a risk. You might get hurt or you might die, but you're going in.
You're leaving nothing behind.
Exactly. Like you've got to have that attitude in life. Go all in and be willing to lose everything, right? Just be willing to lose everything. And I tell this a lot to our younger clientele and audience because that's our sort of audience, right? Just like Andrew Tate, a lot of young men. And we tell them, now's the time to take risks. Like I was having dinner with one of our guys last night. He's 24 years old. And I said to him, I go, bro, now is the time for you to fucking give up all the shit that you don't want to do and go all in on that thing that you want to do. Because you've got no kids, you've got no mortgage, you've got no responsibilities. You live at home.
It's like the perfect time.
Bro, like I can't even do that. You know what I mean? I have to be more conservative than you. But you can take all of the risk in the world because you've got so much time ahead of you to try and come back from it. And that's what I did. Business after business, I failed and I failed. I fell over. People ripped me off. I lost money. Almost went bankrupt. Like how many times, Sam, did I have to go through that, And then now, like risk is nothing.
And we've become a beast.
You're
used to it.
Yeah, like we just went unconditional on a $6 million project. Like that's big for us.
And in this environment too, where everyone's like,
everyone's scared. But you know what? Roll the dice. If I lose the $6 million, fuck it. I'll make it back later. You know what I mean? And that's the attitude you've got to have.
And you can only do that because you've gone through all those other things before.
Exactly. So start off with going as hard as you can within reason, but then build up that muscle to take that risk ongoing for the rest of your life. And like you said, you'll become a beast.
Yeah, be water for duck's back. So really, I read this thing, people know this, but people on their deathbeds, what do they regret most? The things they didn't do. So don't be one of those guys.
Yeah,
if there's something you want to do, even if we get a lot of first-time investors coming through and they really hesitate, they might not even invest. They'll get caught up with their family, all that kind of stuff, maybe have a kid. But because they didn't act at that time, it could set them back a long time, and they'll probably be later on in life going, I should have fucking done something. So
100%. My wife said to me, I think about a year or so ago, said, when are you gonna slow down? Like, when are you going to be happy with what you've done and just really just sort of ease into
take the foot off a little,
potentially retirement, right? And I said, I'll fucking die trying, getting to my goal. You know what I mean? Like, because what will happen, let's say I die in 5 years' time, but I'm still working towards this goal. I'll die a happy man because I know I went as hard as I could, for as long as I could, for as far as I could, for my family and for my people, right? Like, I don't want to go, okay, for the last 5 years of my life, I just slowed down. Nah, man. That was 5 years where I could have gone harder for my people, right? And then I could have been much happier. So that's where, like, you don't think that you're going to get to this goal and go, all right, I'm going to slow down. Like, just fucking keep going. Because that's what's going to keep you going. Notice a lot of people that retire, they die fucking like that.
They wither away.
Yeah, because they get bored, right? They lack purpose. They don't have it anymore. Like, create purpose for yourself. Create something super meaningful, something more than like, you know, getting the big house and all of that sort of thing. Like, something substantial, like, you know, starting your own foundation, you know, getting your kids involved in your business or whatever it is. Like, go hard until the day you die. And that doesn't mean torturing yourself. Enjoy the process. Because when you have the wins, you actually love it.
Continually set goals.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. Once you've reached one, don't stop.
Don't stop, man. That's when you die, you know.
Very inspirational. I loved it. Love it.
Number 5.
Number 5.
It's very similar to number 4, actually. Aspire to be a superhero. Not a normal person with a bigger house and a nicer car. And Andrew Tate, you know, like he talks about this very, very well. You know, like, as a man, we have the ability to become anything we want, which is true. I mean, it takes work. We're not saying that just dream about being a superhero and you'll become one. Like, it might take you 10, 15 years to do, but it's possible. You can actually be whatever you want. And you have to understand that you are the superhero in your movie.
Yeah, exactly. And what he's doing is he's sort of following his own lessons. So he built his own empire. And now what is he doing? He's helping others. He's trying to give back through this education and saying what he's done through his experiences, sort of like what you're telling our listeners today, what you've gone through to get to where you are at now. And what are you doing now? You're helping people. With all that information, education, history you have through business and property, you're passing it on. So that's the sort of, you have to be unselfish. You have to maybe have an unselfish mind.
The goal should be to help as many people as possible.
Exactly.
To serve as many people as possible. Like, I am the superhero to my clients. Everyone looks at me as the superhero because I've gone through all of the business failures, the bad property investments, but I've still come out on top. So I'm able to help those people avoid those mistakes, right? But I'm also able to help those people come up with their own mission and vision. Like, a lot of people come in here and go, I just want to buy a property so I can get into the market. And I'm like, do you really? Don't you want to build a portfolio of assets so that then you can do bigger things later in the future and your kids can get involved and then you can start your own foundation and then all of a sudden these people think, fuck, I can be a superhero as well, right? And that's the message I think Tate is trying to get across to young men, is like, hey, you can do it. Like, yeah, you're looking at me as a superhero, but you can do it as well, you know, and everybody can do it. And you've just got to believe that you can do it.
No, agreed. The world really is full of two types of people, right? The takers and the givers. And I just found this quote, I thought it was quite interesting. The takers can eat well, while the givers can sleep well. So the takers might...
That's a good...
You know what I mean?
Line,
So over time in life, the older you get, if you're a giver, you're going to be very content.
The problem is there's more takers.
You have to navigate those fuckers.
Yeah, there's more takers. And this is what puts people off by two reasons. People feel like they've been hard done by because everybody takes from them, right? Or they become a taker themselves because they're surrounded by takers, right? I can't deal with takers, right? Because what happens is that they become infectious.
Yeah.
And That doesn't really affect me in terms of turning me into a taker, because I'm always a giver. But what the problem with that is that you don't want to be around those people, because you just feel like all they're doing is taking value from you, but they're not giving anything back. And we've all got these people in our circle. There's always someone there that never picks up a bill at a restaurant, right? Someone who comes to you for advice but doesn't provide any value to your own business. There's plenty of examples out there, and everybody will know what we're talking about. But you've just got to limit your time with those people. Try and surround yourself with givers, because you want to be a giver yourself.
Agreed. Number 6. Okay. Believe men. So Tate believes men have the sacred duty to protect and provide for the important people in their lives. I guess what this is trying to say is that men have an important role in society and in families. I think over time, men have sort of been under attack, I would say. Men have
By these feminist
movements, governments are weakening families, I think.
Yeah.
A lot of this woke sort of stuff. I think men
it's disabling us.
As a powerful presence in a family and in society, they're squashing that. Because once divided, you're very easy to manipulate.
And you look at a great example of Trump and Biden. You know, whether you love him or you hate him, you know, Trump was great for America, right? He was like that strong father that would smack you if you were naughty, and you would just do as he says. And America was in a much better position back then. And soon as old softy Biden came in, probably listens to his wife too much, right? The country's become weak, right? It's a fact. Like, people listening to this will probably disagree with me or hate me. I actually don't give a fuck, because I'm not going for Prime Minister, right? I'm the superhero in my own movie. Like, it's the truth. And this is what Andrew Tate says, right? It's the truth. It's the truth. Men are being disabled now, and this is the whole reason why Tate has started his Hustlers University, and he's created that audience of young men to say, hey, we need to step up and make a change, because they are fucking us. They are weakening us, right? And I think, you know, I can't agree with Tate any more than this, with, you know, us having the duty of protecting the people within our household and in our circle. Like, I take on that role, and I put so much pressure on myself to take on that role. Like, I've got 10 girls down at my business in the hair salon that I'm responsible for. I make sure they're like my kids, right? I've got my clients, right? I've got my family. I bear the brunt of that responsibility to make sure that everybody is fed in my close-knit circle. And a lot of people say to me, "Oh, you don't need to do that. You don't need to worry about all of these other people. You just need to worry about, you know, your wife and kids." And I'm like, no. I have put my hand up to take that responsibility, to make sure that everyone prospers around me, right? And I think a lot more other people need to take on that responsibility as well, because it gives you power. It makes you feel good, right? As a man, like, if you provide for your family and give them more than what they need, that's actually a really good fucking feeling. That's great for your mental health. Imagine if you had no one to provide for, right? You had no purpose. So all of this hard work you're doing with self-improvement and all of that sort of thing only benefits yourself. You know, like, you need to strengthen up so that you can provide for more than yourself, because that will keep you going to the day you die.
100%. I think society over time, it's really created this sort of, I won't say weaker men, but to be a strong man is a lot harder these days. If you take, just for example, say maybe our parents, our great-grandparents, the father could have a job, a meaningless job, whatever it is, but he could make enough money to provide for the family. The mum could stay at home with the kids. They could go on a holiday, own a car, everything is catered for by that guy, even if he didn't have a good education and just a normal job. Where nowadays, to get ahead or even have a home, you have to be a bit of a superstar, right? And now with women in the workforce earning their own money, it's sort of detracting from a man's ability to provide, because a woman can provide for herself these days. So it's becoming a lot harder to become that sort of powerful guy.
But it just means you've got to work harder.
That's it.
You've got to become more high value.
That's
like
right.
if your missus works, like you have to fucking work harder, because you need to be able to go, hey, whatever your wife's name is or your spouse's name is, you don't need to work anymore. You just had a baby. You've got the option not to work. Yeah, okay. If she's a career woman, she loves it. Fair enough. That's a different story. But you want to have that power to be able to say to her, "Hey, you know, you don't have to stay at home all day." But like,
option.
Yeah, it's an option. I've created that for you, and that makes you feel good as a man, right? Like all of these women that come out and they say that they want all of this power. Yeah, that's great, right? If you want. So if we're in bed and we hear a noise at the front door as an intruder could potentially be coming in to rob us, do we send you? Or do I fucking get up and deal with it? What do we do? What would you expect to do, Sam?
I have to get a bat and go to the...
You got to fucking say, okay, wife, kid, stay here, lock the fucking door, do not come out until I tell you I'm going out for war, right? Like, you'd never tell your wife to go, right? So unless you're willing to take on that fucking role, shut the fuck up, right?
I agree.
You agree? And you know what's funny, right?
I agree.
This podcast will probably attract so much controversy and so much hate, and we actually don't give a fuck, right? Like at the end of the day, we believe what we believe, and that's how the world should fucking operate.
That's it, 100%.
Let's keep moving.
Let's go. Number 7.
Before we get in trouble.
Only conduct business dealings with trusted and vetted brothers. Okay, no, that's a 101.
This is
but
fucking massive for us, man.
You can,
massive.
It can be overlooked, and if you do overlook this,
I overlooked it.
It's very painful.
Yeah, I overlooked it when I was in my 20s. I would just, because I was desperate, trying to network with whoever, trying to do business with whoever I could. And that's how I kept losing money. Now I've realized that when I have people come into my network, I've got to test them out. You know what I mean? I don't jump in to bed with them too quickly. I've got to test them out. And you become better at it, right? Like after 15 years of being in business and going through so many hardships with relationships and all of that sort of thing, you learn to vet a lot quicker. You just get this gut feel. Like I can spend literally 5 minutes with another man and go, you know what?
You already worked him out.
90%. I've got a 90% chance of making it work with you. But you've seen people come into the office and all they give a fuck about is themselves, and we're like, no, we can't do business with you.
If you sit and observe, you can usually pick up their agenda, if there's an agenda.
But when you're younger, it's harder because you haven't had that experience.
You haven't been dealing with people. Yeah.
But my advice there is just do it. Just jump into that relationship. Don't go all in. Don't put all of your chips don't put fucking 10 million bucks with the one guy, right? But test them out in little different things that you can do with each other. As simple as go to dinner.
Yeah.
See if they pick up the bill, or even offer to pick up the bill.
Yeah. See how they react.
If they don't, if let's say the bill comes and they don't move and they just expect you to pay, that's a red flag, right? Like when I go out to dinner, I don't want other people to pay for me. I don't, right? But what I do want is people to fight for the bill. I'll always win because I always want to get the bill, but I want people to show that gesture that they want to pay. Even if it's an act, even if you've got $0 in the bank, I want those people to go, no, I've got it.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
I'll always pay, but I want those people to show me their love for me, show their commitment to me.
That you're both committed.
Exactly.
You're showing
exactly.
commitment.
So that's not a massive test, right? It's not like you've got to do a, $10 million deal to test the relationship out. And I'm not saying that that's going to answer all of your questions about vetting someone, but it's a good indication. So do those little things.
And just quickly before we move on, trust in any relationship, it's sort of the cornerstone. With your wife, with your family, you need trust. Even more so with business, because there is the thing called money involved. And I think what money does, it can test people's loyalties and their honesty. I have a story about a previous place I worked for. The accounts manager, for 10 years, siphoned money. So that's,
How much did he siphon?
it was over $1 million.
$1 million.
So he did it in a creative way. He's now he got caught, but
Where was he siphoning the money from? The
accounts. So he had control of the bank accounts for the company.
Yeah.
And he'd borrow money to, say, buy property and then maybe replenish it, maybe not, depending how it was. He'd use money to buy assets, trucks and things. He had businesses. So there were certain things he was doing and a breach of trust in this business environment. So, and the people in the business, they were very close to him. They considered him like family. And he breached that trust because money was on the table. You know, if there wasn't that much money on the table, maybe he wouldn't do it. But money really will test people's loyalties. He wasn't loyal to them.
And look,
he stole from them.
Yeah, and I've had relationships with people business relationships where, you know, we were friends when we had nothing. And then all of a sudden money started coming in and it just changed. Like people became jealous. People thought that I was undeserving of it. So they felt that they could steal from me. And it just changes people, you know what I mean? For better or for worse, you know what I mean? Like if you're a bad person, I truly believe that you will change towards going more bad. If you are a good person from within, you'll become a better person.
But amplify.
Yeah,
your
it'll amplify. I like to feel like it has amplified me to become a better person. Like I give more to charity now. I give more to my network now. Like I pass on a lot of my knowledge onto the next generation, right? I'm very passionate about that. And I probably could do better. And I work on that every day. And I would like to think that money has made me a better person. But I do know a lot of people where money has made them into the devil. You know what I mean?
But that's what they were before.
That's what they
weren't
before.
allowed to do that. They didn't have the capability. All right, next one.
Number 9?
Well, number 9 or 8?
I think 8.
8. Okay. Believe that men have the sacred duty to rigorously train themselves both physically and mentally every day. I think this touches on, because I vividly remember this in one of the things he was saying. I think it was him, or maybe Peterson. I listen to a lot of Peterson.
Peterson's great,
He's
isn't he?
fucking good.
Yeah, he's really good.
But he says, one of them say, women, kids and pets have unconditional love. Men are loved for providing something. And really, man is born with no value. But we have to create our
You got to
value.
create it.
So a woman has the ability to have kids, among other things. They're beautiful.
Well, the woman,
they have a value inherent.
The woman is born with so much value, and this is where we're going to talk women up. Like they are born with so much value because they can carry the next generation. They can, you know, obviously they reproduce and all of that sort of thing, and they're beautiful, right? Like women are beautiful, and that's the reason why we love them so much, right? And that's why I ultimately, like, women make us weak. You know, like for example, if I go out with my missus and there's 5 lebos that I walk past, 100% those lebos are going to disrespect me by wolf whistling at my missus because they know that I can't do anything. But if I walk past those 5 lebos on my own, not one of them will say one thing to me. Why? Because they know I could just punch on at any time. They know I'm not going to punch on when my missus is next to me. Because there's an issue that if she will get hurt potentially, right? Especially if there's 5 blokes there. It happens all the time for us. Every Saturday night, that's what happens to us, right? Wolf whistles, everything, and I'm disabled, right? And that's because women make us weak, right? Because they're so beautiful. Right?
No.
And our job is to protect them. So with us as men, on the other hand, we have to create the value, right? You know, at the end of the day, what do we have? A little bit of sperm. You know what I mean? That's our contribution.
We can procreate, but the woman really is looking for us to be that protective person.
Exactly. But we're not born that way, right? Like you have to create yourself to be a machine so that you can make your wife feel comfortable, that you're with someone that's going to protect them, provide for them. And then the more you can do that, the higher your value becomes. And the only way to do that is to train yourself every day, mentally and physically.
To level up, continually leveling up. That's it. All right.
Number nine. Feel the urgency in life. It's too short. So I think people move too slow. Some people think I move too fast, right? But it's
somewhere in between is where you should be.
It's got me to where I am today, right? And a lot of people, whether it's property investing, whether it's business ideas, they take too long from idea to execution. If you can close that gap from idea to execution, you'll fail quicker. You'll learn from your mistakes a lot sooner, and that means you can move on to the next thing. So that's what I have tend to do probably in the last 10 years more so, where I've just gone, all right, I'm going to throw 100 things at the wall very, very quickly. Maybe 5% of it's going to stick, and I'm just going to stick with that and just hone in on that. And a lot of people say to me, Zah, how did you figure it out? All of that sort of thing. Don't worry, man. I made the mistakes, but I made them fast.
Yeah. And you always used to say, is it going to kill you? Are you going to die? Just do it. Like, it's sort of touching on that sort of urgency thing. Just do it. Is it going to kill you to do that action? If it doesn't work, you just pick yourself up and go again. So,
look, it's a good example, right, is when clients come in and they go, oh, you know, I don't know about this property purchase because it's going to cost me $200 a week. And I'm like, okay, let's say 12 months goes by, that's 10 grand. Has the property grown more than 10 grand? The answer is probably going to be yes. And they'll probably say, what if it hasn't? Then sell the property. Like, what is your worst case scenario? That's my point. Your worst case scenario isn't even that bad. So just remember, we live in a country where we have fuck all problems. Like, you go to these third world countries and you'll go, fuck, these guys have problems.
No food, no water.
They don't have clean water. Like, I watched it was just a news snippet the other day on Al Jazeera. In Pakistan at the moment, inflation has hit them really, really fucking hard. And it's the month of Ramadan, right? So they have these food trucks that give out food to the poor and everything. And there's not enough food, and there's too many people. And these people, all they want to do is get fed. And they're trampling on each other to the point where people are dying because they're getting stood on, because they're fighting for food. They're fighting for bags of rice, right? And then people here, they whinge about something that $100 a week. A property's going to cost them $100 a week. It's fucking two pizzas.
It's nothing. Yeah.
You know what I mean? These people overseas, they can't even afford pizza.
They can't even eat.
Right? So like you got to remember, like we live in a fucking opportunist country.
I think Australia is the only place really you have complete control of your future, really, if you have the balls to do something.
The opportunity here, and this is why we encourage everyone to travel, because the opportunity here is fucking mind-boggling. It's amazing. Like, I go back to my family back in Malaysia and I tell them what I'm doing here. They're just fucking like, wow, you made that work?
You can do that?
Yeah, like, how did you make that work? You know, like, it's just, it's amazing. And if the more you travel, the more you appreciate where we live. And you'll probably go harder.
Yeah. Number 10, do good in the world and seek to help those less fortunate.
So this is one thing where I love Andrew Tate, right? Because he's made that much money that he's got his, you know, he's chosen charities that he gives back to. He's giving back in itself by trying to teach young men to be stronger. And I guess for us, it's the same, right? Like, a lot of our giving back to the community is sort of sharing our knowledge through this podcast and, you know, connecting with people and trying to mentor them and coach them to be better people. I don't want to say better men, because there's a lot of women in our network as well. But it's also an opportunity for us to, you know, allocate funds to a charity that means so much to us. So we've just sort of embarked on a journey with a partnering charity where we're going to build orphan homes for every project that we complete. So for every project that we complete, because we're building homes, we're building affordable sort of dwellings, we thought, you know what, let's build an orphan home as well in a third world country that can house, you know, 10 to 15 kids that don't have parents. And then those orphan homes can be sort of named after the projects that we do here. So it's a good little thing to sort of work towards, maybe building 100 orphan homes over my lifetime, which means I've got to do 100 projects in this new construction business that we're sort of about to launch. But that has given me, the money has given me the power
to do that.
And, you know, orphan homes cost between $25,000 to $50,000. You know what I mean? So like, do the maths on that. If I've done 100 of them over my lifetime, that's a lot of giving back. You know what I mean? And I know a lot of people where they won't even give $2 to the Red Cross that come in and knock on their door. You know, so you've got to work to a point where we're not saying give back to charity straight away and spend 10 grand of your hard-earned money straight away, but work towards giving the $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 one day, because that's where it starts making the difference. Because a lot of people don't give to charity because they think, oh, is it really going to make a difference? That's only because they're only considering putting in $100.
Small amounts, yeah.
You know what I mean? But when you build orphan homes, right, you're spending $25,000, $30,000. That's where the fucking big difference is. When you can house 10, 15 kids that don't have any parents, right? Like in a country like in West Africa or something. Like it's just you can really make a difference that way. So because I've got that, I guess, in my mission and part of my vision, it keeps me going every day. So, I'm not thinking about, okay, can I buy a fucking Bentley and, build the $10 million home?
Unselfish.
You know what I mean? I'm thinking, okay, no. I want to house 10 to 15 kids maybe every 6 months, and that takes a lot of work and that takes a lot of time. And, and that's what I think people should be working towards. Work towards giving back to your community, giving back to those who are less fortunate, because it can be very rewarding. And again, it will give you purpose to keep going.
If you're not at your level, I think the easiest thing you can do is work out what you're good at, try to make an income from it, and then help as many people as you can doing it. So that way you're covering your income and you're helping as many people. So
and from an accounting point of view, it's tax deductible.
That's it, 100%. Yeah. And be a good fucking person.
Yeah.
That's all you have to do.
and this is what escaping the matrix is, right? Like a lot of people think, okay, you've got to do bad stuff to sort of get out of the system. No, you actually just got to do more good stuff.
That's right. Yeah.
Right? Become a better person, become a stronger person. And I know we've targeted men in this podcast, but it applies to women as well. Like just become better at what you do, become more valuable, and you'll
get more success.
Essentially you get paid more, right,
more
Sam?
Success. 100%.
All right, Sam, I enjoyed this. So great news, Tate has been released, and hopefully we get to see more content of him soon. And I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast as well. We will see you soon. Thank you, Sam. Bye-bye.
No worries.